a large armored warship with a main battery consisting of large caliber guns. Yes, we're talking about battleships. They were a symbol of naval dominance, and for decades they were a major factor in both diplomacy and military strategy. Today we'll list out the top 10 biggest battleships ever built in history based on displacement. So without further delay, let's get started. The 10th biggest battleships ever built in history is the Littorio Class. This class of battleships were fast battleships built for the French Navy, which first entered service in 1940. By the time the first vessel was completed, the Littorio-class ships displaced 37,850 tons standard and 44,698 tons when fully loaded. They were 242 meters long between perpendiculars and were 247.85 meters long overall. They had a beam of 33.8 meters and a maximum draft of 9.9 meters. Their crew numbered 1,569 officers and men, though this changed considerably over the course of their careers, particularly as their anti-aircraft batteries were revised. Up next, at number 9, we have the South Dakota class. This class was a group of 4 fast battleships built by the United States Navy, which first entered service in 1942. They were designed to have a standard displacement limit of 35,562 tons and 45,223 tons when fully loaded. Their overall length measured 207 meters and a beam of 33 meters and a draft of 11 meters. Their main armament consists of 9 16-inch 45 caliber Mark VI guns and 3-gun turrets, identical to the North Carolina class. 2 of these turrets were placed in a super-firing pair forward. The third turret was mounted aft of the main superstructure. The number 8 biggest battleships ever built in history is the Littorio Class or Vittorio Veneto class. This was a class of battleship for the Regia Marina, the Italian Navy. They first entered service in 1940 and they were the most modern battleships used by Italy during World War II. Littorio class displaced 40,724 metric tons as designed and 45,236 tons at full load. Typically, the crew of Littorio class consisted of 1,750 enlisted men and 80 officers. The ship's main armament consisted of 9 381mm L50 Ansaldo 1934 guns and 3 triple turrets, 2 in a super-firing pair forward and 1 aft. Up next, at number 7, is the North Carolina class. This class was a group of 2 fast battleships, North Carolina and Washington, built for the United States Navy that first entered service in 1941. They served extensively in a number of roles during the Second World War, mainly in the Pacific Theater. The North Carolina was 728 feet long overall, the maximum beam was 33.17 meters, and in 1942, the standard displacement was 37,200 tons while full load displacement was 45,500 tons. North Carolina class were principally armed with 9 16-inch caliber Mark VI guns and 25-inch 38 caliber Mark XII guns. The 6th biggest battleships ever built in history is the King George V class battleships. These British battleships first saw action in 1940, and they were the most advanced ones during World War II. They first entered service in 1940. 5 ships of this class were built and all saw combat during World War II. They have a standard displacement of 40,642 tons while its maximum displacement is 46,088 tons. Their overall length is 213.4 meters, their beam is 31.5 meters and a draft is 10.2 meters. The King George V class carried 10 BL 14-inch Mark VII naval guns in 2 quadruple turrets fore and aft and a single twin turret behind and above the fore turret. The 5th biggest battleships ever built in history is the Nagato-class battleships. These battleships were a pair of dreadnought battleships built for the Imperial Japanese Navy that entered service in 1921. The latest Nagato-class had a length of 201.17 meters between perpendiculars and 225 meters overall. They had a beam of 34.6 meters and a draft of 9.49 meters. The Nagato-class ships displaced 39,130 tons at a standard load and 46,690 metric tons at full load. The main armament of the Nagato-class ships consisted of 8 45 caliber 41cm third-year type naval guns mounted in 2 pairs of twin-gun, super-firing turrets fore and aft. The 4th biggest battleships ever built in history based on displacement is HMS Vanguard. This class was a British fast battleship built during the World War II and entered service in 1946. She was the largest and fastest of the Royal Navy's battleships, the only ship of her class and the last battleship to be built. Vanguard had an overall length of 248.2 meters, a beam of 32.9 meters, and a draft of 11 meters at deep load. She displaced 45,200 tons at standard load and 52,250 tons at deep load. The ship's main armament consisted of 8 42 caliber BL 15-inch Mark I guns and 4 twin hydraulically powered gun turrets. Up next at number 3 is the Bismarck-class battleships. This class was a pair of fast battleships built for Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine. The ships were the largest and most powerful warships built for the Kriegsmarine. The 2 ships of this class were the Tirpitz battleship and the Bismarck battleship. The Tirpitz is slightly bigger than the Bismarck, displacing 42,900 tons standard and 52,600 tons when fully loaded. The battleships had a length of 251 meters overall, a beam of 36 meters, and a draft of 9.3 meters. They were armed with a battery of 8 38cm guns and were capable of a top speed of 30 knots. Having a standard displacement of 48,592 tons and a maximum displacement of 61,000 tons, the Iowa-class battleship is the 2nd biggest battleships ever built in history. The Iowa-class was a class of 6 fast battleships built for the United States Navy that first entered service in 1943. They were initially intended to intercept fast capital ships such as the Japanese Congo-class. The Iowa-class battleships are 262.13 meters long at the waterline and 270.43 meter long overall with a beam of 33 meters and a draft of 11.5 meters. The primary guns used on these battleships are the 9 16-inch 50 caliber Mark VII naval guns. And now the biggest battleship ever built in history based on displacement is the Yamato-class battleships. The Yamato and Musashi are the 2 battleships of this class. They first entered service in 1941. They displaced 71,111 tons normally and 72,809 tons at full load, and they are the heaviest ever constructed. They had an overall length of 263 meters overall, a draft of 10.4 meters, and a beam of 38.9 meters. The class was equipped with 9 460mm naval guns, each with a 1,460 kilograms or 3,220-pound shell range of 42 kilometers or 26 miles, making it the largest naval armament ever installed to a battleship. And with this, the Buzz is signing off for today. Thank you guys for viewing in. Bye-bye.